Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be creating this application that's going to allow us to create some images based on the code we put in the editor. For example, we have this JavaScript code. If I click on export, we're going to have a nice image, but before I show you the export functionality, let's start by looking at the other functionality. For example, we have an option to choose a programming language which we want to highlight. In this case, we have JavaScript, but you can add as many programming languages you want. We can also change the name of the file. When for example, I change it to Python as well, it's going to change the extension and the icon is also going to change. And this code is not recognized as Python, so the highlighting is not going to be correct. I'm going to change this to Python. As you can see, the highlighting is now correct. I'm going to change this to main.py like this. I'm also going to increase the height. We can increase the height and the width here. It's all resizable. Okay, so once we are ready, we can also select the color of the code here. Okay, so once you're happy with the color of the code you have, we can also select the background color to whatever background that you like. Okay, so once you find the background color that you like, we can also select the padding as well. So in this case, maybe I like the padding 2 RAM. All you have to do now is just click export PNG, and then it's going to take this screenshot, and then let's open this image. As you can see now, we have the image exported. Okay, I don't know why there's this green thing here. Let me close. Oh, because of the syntax highlighting. Okay, we can get rid of that by going somewhere else, which there's no function like this. So go here and then hit export again, and then now let's reopen. As you can see now, we don't have that green syntax highlighting anymore. Okay, so I'm going to put back to JavaScript. I'm just going to hit Ctrl Z, change to JavaScript, and then I'm going to resize. Also the color, I'm going to change it to the default color. The padding, you can mess around with the padding, and then export again, and there's the image. It looks really nice. Okay, yeah, that's it for the features. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comment sections, or you can send me an email. Okay, so before we create our project in VS Code, let's start by creating a simple wireframe of our project. I'm going to be using an app called eraser.io. In this case, I'm just going to create a new file in here. We can also use the markdown and the canvas. In this case, we're only going to be using the canvas. So if you want to follow along, go to eraser.io, go to canvas. Let's start by creating the main page of our app. Main page, something like this. So this is going to be the home page. I'm going to add text here. Home page. All right. I'm going to change the text size to something like 30 pixels, something like that. And then I'll move it here. I'll also add an icon. I'm going to look for document. Let's add this shape icon actually. It's going to work as our document. Okay, let's give it a background color of green. So something like this. So we have the home page. Okay. All right. In the home page, we're going to have the header. So this is our header component, and I'm going to duplicate Ctrl D, and then we're going to create this. This is the code component, which we're going to be using to take the screenshots. And then I'll duplicate, and then we're going to have the footer. So the footer is somewhere like something like this. And then I'm going to increase the width of this and center. Okay, so something like that. Okay. So something like this. put this down here and this down, something like this. Okay, so now we have the components. Let's try to add some text in here. So first we have language selector. So we have language selector. The text, I'm going to change the size to 18 pixels. So we have the language selector, Control D to duplicate, and then we're going to have the syntax highlighting, highlight. Okay, so we have the syntax highlight, and then let's duplicate this. We are going to have the theme selector, okay, theme selector, duplicate, and then we are going to have padding selector, like this. So these are individual components. So you have the language selector, syntax highlighting, theme selector, and then the padding selector. And then finally, we're going to have the export button. So something like this. Export image or export PNG, something like this. So this is another component. It's going to be here at the end, and then we're going to be able to export. I'm just going to change this to give it a different color. I'll give this green color here. Okay, and here I'm just going to be using a line, the line 2, like this. Okay, and another line. Okay, something like that. Okay, so I am also going to move this a bit up here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to give this a different color. This, and then this one I'll put a green color, something like this. And then we're going to have the footer here. So for the footer, we're going to have some text. We're going to have subscribe. Okay, subscribe. And I'm going to bring another icon here. I'm going to look for link icon. Link. Okay, so this is going to go to an external website. That's why I'm using this link icon. So subscribe. The text color, I'll put it to this white color. Actually, I think I'll change it to something like a grayish color. I don't know, something like this. And then I'll just copy this, or CC. I think it's CCC, something like that. Okay, and then make sure this is aligned center. Okay, so we have I'll make it smaller a tiny bit. Okay, something like this, I think. And then let's Control G to group. Okay, so something like that. We have the subscribe, and then Control D, duplicate, Control D, duplicate. Okay, subscribe, and then we're going to have here, we're going to do source code, and then move this around a bit. Okay, source code, and then here we're going to have made by code dealer, then move this, something like this. Okay, and then I'm going to center this that. Okay, so something like this. And then Ctrl G to group, and then center. Okay, and I'm going to change this to dashed. The lines, I want them to be dashed like that. Okay, and I'm also going to change these lines as well to dashed, like this. Okay, so yeah, this is the basic representation of the wireframe of our project. So we have the language selector component, syntax highlighting component, theme selector component, the padding selection component, and then the export. And then this is the code block, which we're going to take our image from. And then we have the footer component, which we're going to have the subscribe, made by, and then the source code, which is going to take us to external links. That's why I'm using this small link icon here. So yeah, you're not limited to draw wireframes with this app. You can basically do any diagramming that you want to do. And yeah, I'll see you in the video. Okay, so let's start by opening the folder which we want to save our project into. In this case, I'm just going to cd into React, and then we're going to be using the latest version of Next.js. So let's run npx, and then create next app using the latest version. So in this case, I'm going to name this application code to image to img. That's going to be the name of the app, and then let's run the command. Okay, we're going to be using TypeScript. No. Yes for tail and CSS. No for the source directory. Yes. No. Okay, so let's just wait for the project to be created. So this is the folder, by the way, which we're creating the project in. We're already in the folder. Okay, so to make this easier, instead of working like this with a lot of folders like this, we can just open that project we created. Okay, so I have a tab in another window. I'm just going to locate where the project is. It's code to image, and then I'm just going to select that folder. Okay, so now we are in that folder. So let's run this project. Open the terminal. We're going to do npm run dev. So probably yours is going to be on localhost 3000, but mine is going to be on 3001 because I am running the live version on localhost 3000. Okay, so let's wait for it to load. Okay, I think it's already been loaded. Okay, there it is. So now let's just do some cleanups. Let's go into the page. I'm going to collapse the main. I'm just going to do main like this. Okay, so it's going to be empty like that. So we should have something like this. Let's go to the global CSS. I'm just going to get rid of everything except the tailwind utilities components and the base. Perfect. So now as you can see, we have this resizable component. Okay, so we can resize this with this component. So we're going to be using a package called resizable. It's going to save us a lot of time instead of implementing this resizable feature on our own. So let's start by creating a component. Let's create a components folder. You can create it in the app directory, it's up to you, or here, components in the root directory. Components, also make sure the name is correct. So components, and I'm going to create a new component here. It's going to be called code editor. So this is going to be our code editor, tsx. So it's going to be this code editor here, this. Okay, so it's going to be a client component. So we're going to be using use client like this, and then react functional component, and then export. and then we need to load that component in the main page tsx file. Okay, so let's go to the main. I'm going to create a parent div for this one. So I'm just going to name it code editor, editor, and then ref, like this, and then we're going to render the code editor component like that, and we should be able to see that code editor here. There it is. All right, nice. Okay, so now in the code editor, let's start by installing the package that's going to let us resize. Okay, so it's called resizable, I think, react, something like that. This one, resizable. Okay, so we're going to install this, copy, and then let's open a new terminal, and then we're going to install that. So the other thing that we need for our code editor, for here we have some highlighting, we can edit this. So we are going to use a package called react.js, like this, react.js editor, this one. Okay, let's go to npm as editor. Where's the I'm looking for the command to install this. React.js. Okay, let's just do it from here. npm I react.js, like this. So it should install this package. Okay, so now we've installed that package. We are going to start by creating the resizable container, which is going to be the main container of our code. So we want to be able to resize. Okay, so let's import resizable. I think it's like this. Okay, and then it's going to be the main. We're going to do resizable like that, and then hello. I'm going to do lorem. Let's do 400. Just some random text, okay, to check if this resizable component is working. Okay, so nothing happens yet. It's actually, yeah, it actually works out of the box. So as you can see now, with the resizable, it's working. Okay, now we just need to add some properties to this. So I'm going to give it a min height. The min height, I'm just going to set it to 510 pixels. 510. You can play around with these values later on. Actually, min height, let's do 466. I did these properties off screen, so, and then we're going to do min width. So min width is going to be 510, and then max width is going to be 1000 pixels. Max width is going to be 1000, and then we are going to have a default size, which we're going to set that later on. All right, so here's with the properties we've put. So the maximum is going to be 1000 pixels. As you can see, it's not going anywhere. Okay, nice. So now let's start with the actual code editor. So we need to import ACE editor, import ACE editor from React ACE, like this. And then I'm going to get rid of this text here. Okay, get rid of the text. All right, so now we just need to put the editor. So I'm just going to wrap it in a div. div. Okay, that's the editor, and then I am going to do ace editor like this. It's going to also have some properties. Okay, so let's see what we have so far. So as you can see now, we do have the editor. There it is. We can put some JavaScript code here. For example, I can copy this component. Let's see if it's going to highlight. It doesn't seem like it's highlighting so far because we have not imported the styles. Okay, but it's working. That's the most important thing. So let's start by adding the properties first, and then we're going to import the styles. All right, so let's start with the code. So initially we're going to have some code. So I'm just going to add some random code here. It's not generating value. Okay, like this. So now we have a function on initial render. We're going to have this function here. Nice. Okay, so we need to also have a font size. Let's set that to 16. And then we want to wrap the line. So when the line breaks, we want to go to the next line. So wrap enabled to true, wrap line. So that's a true. All right. We also want to, we don't want to show the margin. Show print margin to false, and then we don't want to highlight the active line. False as well. It's not going to highlight the active line. Okay. Oops. Why is this saving? All right. So now, let's give it a class name. Class name. Let's name it Ace Editor Container, like that. Okay. So we also need to get rid of the getter. Show getter equal to false. All right, so we're going to change this value later on. Name, I'm just going to give it code editor. Actually, I'm just going to paste in the name I copied from the browser. All right, so we are also going to have some themes we can put here. We're going to do that later when we're doing our state, but for now we also need editor props. All right, and yeah, that's what we have for now. Now we just need to style this a little bit. So let's go to the global. In the global CSS, we're going to select the name here of the container. We just need to put a bit of styles on the container. Global. Okay, so I'm just going to set the width to 100% here. All right, so let's start with, let's inspect here. Let's inspect. Okay, let's do the themes first, to be honest, so it looks nicer before we do anything. So code editor, we need to import the themes. For example, we are going to have, let me import, let's do themes. Oops, yeah, themes, can't even spell themes. We're going to import the theme Monokai, like that, and then we're going to import more themes. we are going to import the GitHub theme, the terminal theme, and then we're also going to import I'm just thinking, I think the other theme that we need is called Twilight, like this. Actually, we don't need the GitHub theme like that. So these are the themes, and then we also want to import the highlighting of the syntax highlighting of the languages. So here we're going to import JavaScript, and then we're going to import HTML, CSS, import. We need to import Python. Oops. Python. We also need to import Java, TypeScript, or C#. Let's do TypeScript. Okay, so you can add as many languages as you want later on. You just have to check what's supported. So here are the languages that are supported here. So you can kind of import whatever languages you want to support here from here. Okay, so now we have 3 themes here, Monokai, Terminal, and Twilight. So we can set the theme here. We can say theme equal to this name, and then it's going to go to that theme. Okay, and after the theme we can also set the language to see what language we are using. So mode JavaScript, so it's going to highlight like JavaScript. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I'm just going to create a folder called utils, and then I'm going to create a file in here called utilities.tsx. So here I'm just going to export some themes and languages. Okay, so I don't have to import everything in the code editor. All right, so as you can see here, for the languages we have JavaScript, whatever languages we've imported like this. So I'm just going to export an array of the languages that we want to include in the mode. All right, so in the utilities I'm going to say export const languages. It's going to be an array. Okay, so for the languages it's going to be an object. We're going to have the name of the language. We're going to have JavaScript, and then actually it's going to be in small case. So here, as you can see, it's in a small case, but we're going to sort that later. Okay, so we have name, and then we're going to have the icon. So the icon is going to be coming from the public folder. So we're going to do icons / javascript.svg like this, but we don't have that icon yet. So in the public, I'm going to paste in a folder called icons. Okay, so there's the icons here. You can download these icons from the internet, and then we're going to do Python. You can do it in any order you want. I think these are all correct. All right, so we have TypeScript, Java, Python, CSS, HTML, JavaScript. All right, so we are going to export. Yeah, it's already been exported as a module. So now we need to, select one of those languages and put it here. So we're going to do that using the state. Okay, because we're going to be selecting a language, and also the icon is going to change based on whatever language. You can also put like an extension, so the extension changes here as well as when you're changing the icon, the extension also changes. You can do that as well. All right, so now I'm just checking to see where we need to do the state. So in this case, we're not using context. Okay, so we're not using context. So what we're going to do, let's go to the page. So the state is going to be in our root directory of the app. So the main, so here, so make sure we put use client. So because this is the parent of the code editor, we want to access the state here. So the state is going to be here. So we're going to say const. So for this state, it's going to be the language. I'm going to say language. Oops, language. It's not languages, but language, like that. And then I'm just going to get rid of the S. We just need to import use state. Use state. Oh, for some reason it's not importing. Import react and use state, like that. So we have the language. Let's import the languages and set the default one to be the first one. So language, and then we're going to do languages like this. Make sure you import languages, and then 0, the first one, dot name, the name of the language. All right. Okay, so now in the code editor, I am going to send this state. All right. So for the code editor, we are going to send the state here, but I'm just going to create another component for this language selector here. So this language selector is going to be a component. This one is going to be a component to make it more readable. So I'm going to create a language selector language selector.tsx, like that. And then it's going to be a client component, use client. I don't know why it's use client, and then it's going to be a functional component, language selector. Okay, so now we have the code editor. Okay, so the language selection is going to happen to be done in the header here. We're just going to do language selector. Okay, so right, so in here all I need to do is send the language, this language state, but we're going to change in the state in here in the language selector, but here we're just going to send the language. So if the state changes from here, it's also going to change in the code editor. Okay, so language in the code editor, we are going to create an interface. Okay, so the code editor, we're going to create an interface for the language, for the other things as well we need. So we're going to do interface, code editor props, and then we're going to have on code change. It's going to be a function that's going to take one parameter of string, and then we're going to do language is going to be type of a string, and then we're going to have a theme, which is also going to be a type of a string, and then we're going to have the icon, which is also going to be type of a string, and then the background is going to be optional, type of a string, and then finally we're going to take the padding, current padding. So I'm going to make this optional as well, like that. All right, and I'm going to destructure. All right, so now we have these properties. Okay, we're going to have to get warnings because we didn't set this the props here, so we need to set all of those props here, but we don't have them yet. First off, we just need to focus on the language, but don't mind this error. We're going to fix it later as we progress. Okay, so for the language, mode. So here it's set to JavaScript, and then we'll set it to language, but it's not going to highlight, okay, because the name is incorrect. It should be small cases. Okay, so we need to convert this to lower case, language dot to lower case, like that. And then it's going to highlight now because the language is now lowercase. All right, so now we have the language. So for the theme, we need a way to be able to select the theme. We're going to do that later on. So now let's just focus on styling this editor here. So for us to be able to style this, we're going to be inspecting here, and then we're going to select some classes. So in this case, there's a class called Ace Editor, which you have to look, and you have to look for it and find it. Okay, so look for Ace Editor, or you can just follow me. The class is going to be the same because it's coming from the package. So I'm going to do Ace Editor. I'm going to do some styles for this. So the background color, I'm going to do an RGBA, and then it's going to be a black color, 0, 0. And then for the alpha, I'm going to set the opacity to 0.5, like this. All right, and as you can see, the background color changed. If you set it to 1, it's going to be completely black, but in this case I'm just going to set it 0.5. okay, and I'm going to say border bottom left radius, I'm going to set that to 0.5 rem, and also border bottom right radius 0.5 rem. So I want it to be rounded. All right, so I'm going to set border top to none. I'm going to give it a box shadow. 2 pixels x, 3 pixels y, and then for the blur 10 pixels. All right, and then I'm just going to give it a border of 2 pixels, and RGBA, and then the opacity is going to be very low. And then finally, I'm just going to change the font size and the line height. Okay, so font weight, I'm going to set that to 500. Font size, I'm going to set that to 17 pixels. And then line height, I'm going to set that to 1.5 rem, like that. All right, so oops, let me see if it's resizing. What's the thing? Okay, so there's an issue here. It's going to be fixed later when we finish the styles. And then after the Ace editor, we have the actual content. Ace content width, we're going to set that to 100%. And then we're going to set top 12 pixels, because we want to leave a small space from the top here. 12 pixels, and then left 12 pixels as well. Left 12 pixels, like that. It should leave a small space at the top, but it's not. We need to override the existing styles. Important. So it's going to override the existing styles like this. All right. I think we need to override here as well. Override the existing styles. Okay. So now we also need to search for the ace scroller, and then width, I'm going to set it to 100%, and then important, we're overriding the existing styles. Alright, so I think that's it for the editor. Now we just need to work on the resizing state. Okay, so actually there's one more thing that I need to get rid of. It's the scroll bar. So we have the ace should be scroll bar, display set to none, and then important. Okay, so now the other thing that I need is body, and then I'm going to set a background color and a default color like this. Okay, nice. So now let's work on the height. Let's go to the code editor. So for us to work on the height, we need to create a state. Okay, so when we are updating using these controls, we want to get the height and width of that component. So let's do const width, set width. So by default, I'm just going to set this to 1000 pixels because we're going to start at 1000 pixels like this. That's the initial width. Okay, and then the height, const height. So initially for the height, we're going to start on 500 pixels. All right, we can modify this as you see fit. So this is going to be number. Oh, I don't have the pipe on my keyboard, so I have to copy somewhere, or no. Okay, so now height, we need to go to the code editor. Actually, so to the resizable, we need to set default size. So for the default size, we need to set width and height. Oops, width, so that to the state width, height to the height, and then 500. Oops, 500 like this. All right, so now it should start the same. Okay, it's all still going to be the same, but we can't do anything yet. All right, so let's create an event listener for the resize. Okay, so we're going to say on resize, we're going to say handle resize like that. Now let's create this function here, const handle resize, and then it's going to take an event, event, and then it's also going to take the direction and then the position like this. For this one, I'm not going to do any type checking, so I'm just going to do ts ignore for this only this function. Okay, so ts ignore ignores the next line, so we're just going to ignore this line. All right, so in here we want to get the height of the resizable. Okay, so I'm going to get the height of this here. Okay, so every time we update, we're going to get the inner height. So we're going to say const new height equal to ref dot style dot height. Okay, and then we're going to set height to the new height. Okay, so if I update, if the height is 20 pixels, we are going to set that to the state, update the state accordingly. Okay, and then we're just going to convert this to an integer. Okay, so it's going to update the state accordingly depending on the height of that element. So the ref is going to reference this resizable element here. All right, so the onResize is, it takes these parameters here: event, direction, ref, and position. So the other thing that we need to import use effect because we're going to be running an event listener to listen for the resize. So I'm going to use effect. Oops. Use effect. Use effect is going to be on initial render. Okay, so on initial render, we're going to also get the initial height. So const, let's get a new function. Let's do update size. It's going to be a function, and then we're just also going to set width. We're going to set that to window.inner width, not inner height. It should be width, set width. Okay, so in initial render, we're just going to get the current width of the window, and then we're just going to set that to the state on initial render. So we need to run that function here on initial render. But before we do that, I'm just going to do the event listener window.add event listener. It's going to be the resize and then update resize. Okay, update size, not resize, update size. And then I'm just going to also call this function on initial render, so to get the current width of the window. All right, and then we're running this resize event listener, and then here we're just going to get rid of the remove the event listener. This is just a cleanup function. Okay, so let's see what we have now. So now we are not going to see anything yet. Let's see. Let's give it a background color just to see if we're going to see something. So first off, I'm going to give it a class name. This one is going to be resize container. Resizable or resize container, like that. And then I'm just going to set the position to relative. This is a tailwind CSS class. And then let's go style, and then the background, let's set that to red, shall we? Let's see. Okay, so there's our background color. So the initial width is going to be 1000 pixels. This is the initial height. So let's try to reduce this. This is the min height, by the way, for the resizable component. And also we're not going to go over this width, but as you can see, it's resizing, but for some reason the editor is not filling the entire width. So let's fix that. I think go to the global. I think we need to make sure this is important to override the existing style. Okay, so now as you can see, it's filling the entire width. All right, so it's working as we want, but here for some reason it's also not going along with the height. Okay, we're going to fix that later. So now the background, we're going to fix the background later, so let's leave it at red for now. So now we just need to let me see, let's add this header block here with the icons. So code, I'm just going to create, go to code editor. Here I'm going to do class name. I'm going to name this code block, like this. All right, and in the code block I'm going to do a div, and then it should be code class name, code title, like that. And then in the code title, I'm going to have some dots, 3 dots. I'm going to div. Okay, this should have a class name of dots, and then we're going to have the first dot. We're going to have class name width. We're going to set that to 3 rem. I don't know if 3 rem, it's a 0.5 rem. And then height, we're going to set that to 3. And then rounded full, it's going to be rounded, it's going to be a circle. And then a background, it's going to be BG. I'm going to put my own custom color here. BG not equal, but like this, BG, and then you put the color in here like that. So we have height and width, rounded full, and then a background color. So I'm going to repeat for 2 more circles like that, and then give them different background colors like this. So we should be able to have 3 circles. There they are. All right, so we now need to do flex, display flex, and then we're going to do align items to center, item center, and then gap. We're going to set that to gap 1, give them a bit of a gap between them. Okay, so for the code title, I'm going to give it a height. I'm going to set that to 52 pixels, height. And then we're going to do padding, px. I'm going to set that to 4. And then we're going to do flex, flex, item center, and then justify between, like that. And then, okay, let's go to the next line. I don't know how to make this look cleaner. Justify between, we're going to do bg black, and then bg opacity 80, like this. All right, so now let's see what we have. It's looking pretty good so far. It's coming nice. Okay, so we done the opacity 80. Now we, after the code title, actually still in the code title, we need to, after here, we're going to do div. So this one is going to be the input. We're going to do class name with full. So I'm just going to name it input control. So I usually put classes just in case I want to style this separately. Input control, and then the width is going to be 100%. And then we're going to have an input here. Input, the type is going to be text, and then we do class name. We're going to do width full, and then I'm going to text to give it a color, a custom color. This is the color, and then I'm going to set the outline to none, and then I'm going to set the font medium, and then text center. Let's go to the next line. Text center, and then bg transparent, like that. Okay, like that, bg transparent. And the other thing that we need, I think that's that. Let's try. Okay, hello. Yep, it's looking pretty good. So the other thing is the icon. Okay, so here we're going to do div dot icon. All right, so we're going to do flex, justify, center, item center, p1 padding, bg black, and then the opacity is going to be 30%. bg opacity 30, and then it's going to be rounded sm, rounded rounded sm small for the rounded. All right, and okay, so in here I am going to add an image. I'm going to put the icon. All right, and let's save. Okay, so there's no icon at the moment, I think. All right, so we don't have an icon now yet because we're not passing in, so the icon should be coming from the props. Okay, because we haven't set the icon here yet. So we have that. I think we just need to do a bit of styling in the CSS. Let's start with the code title. Here dot code title. I'm going to give it border top left and top right radius to 0.5, and then a border and a box shadow. By the way, box shadow does not work when we're taking a screenshot of the element. I'm going to show you later on why that doesn't work. Okay, so now we have the box shadow. So let's get rid of this red background. Let's get rid of this. Okay. Nice. Okay. Now we just need to center this. And then we're going to do the rest of the functionality after we center. So go to page, so code editor ref. I'm just going to set empty margin top, empty margin top. I'm going to set that to 14 rem, like that. So we should have spacing from the top. Go back to the code editor. We just need to center this. So I'm thinking to flex. Let me inspect. I'm looking for the parent. Okay, so the parent, it seems to be code editor ref. We need to do flex for that. Code editor. Okay, code editor. Let's go to the page. Let's go on the main here, class name. I'm going to say mean height. Actually, let's set the height. to 100 VH. Okay, and then we're going to do display flex, and then flex column, item center, and then justify between. Okay, like that. We're going to put a header here, like that. And then justify between, that's that. And then for the header, oops, why is there an issue here? It happens sometimes. Okay, perfect. So for the header, I'm going to do class name empty. We're going to set that to 6, and then width, we're going to set that to 940 pixels. 940 pixels. Okay, and then I'm going to set p5 padding, p5, and then the position is going to be fixed, and then top 0. All right, and then left is going to be 50%, left 1/2, that's like 50%. Okay, and then translate x is going to be translate x, we want it to be minus 50%, so to be centered in the x-axis, minus 50%. Let's put this in the next line, and then we're going to have z, let's do 10. Okay, so now with the z index, I'm going to also set a background color. So we have bg. I'm going to put a custom color here, and then it's going to be rounded. I want it to be a little bit rounded. Rounded. So the rounded property is going to have a border radius of 0.25 rem. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a border in the shadow, MD shadow medium. So the border is going to be this color here. So border, the color, this one. Okay, and let's save. So there it is. So we have the header. Perfect. Okay, so now it's centered, so let's see what we can work on. I think let's start with the language selector component, and then we will go to the padding later on and the height. Okay, so padding component, actually no, it's not the padding, it's the language selector component. So in the language selector, we are going to have an interface. We're going to have the language, which is going to be a string, not languages, language string, and then set language, the state, and then we're going to set active icon. Okay, so this is going to return the void. It doesn't return anything. So we need to create the state. We do have the state already. So here we're going to have language equal to language, and then set language equal to set language, like that. Why do we have an issue here? Language. Okay, let's destructure these properties. That. All right. Set language. Make sure the spelling is correct. All right. So the only thing that's missing now is going to be the active icon component. So let's do const active icon languages, the first language dot icon, like that. And then we're going to do active icon, like that. So here we are getting the set active, and then here we need to pass the set active icon. On initially we're going to have the first language icon, first language, and the icon of that language. And then in the languages we're going to update that icon state based on however we're updating the language. So we should be able to see the icon now, but we do not. Let's inspect to see why. Icon. Okay, so there's nothing in the icon. Code editor. Okay, I think I know why. Because we are not sending through the icon. So here we need to do icon. We're just going to send the active icon like that. So now we should be able to see that icon. There it is. It's really small, but we're going to style it later on. Now we need to have some kind of a drop down. We can create a component for the drop down. So let's first select these selections first for the language select, and then we're going to create the drop down component later on. Okay, so we have this div. I'm going to have a p tag here. So the p tag is going to be language. Okay, language. So it's going to be this p tag here. So I'm going to have class name py. So for the y, I'm going to set 5 pixels, and then text sm is going to be the small, and then font medium, like that. And then we're going to have another div. So for this div, we are going to have language. Oops. Language, like that. Language. And then we're going to have a chevron. Icon, but we need to install Lucid React. So Lucid React, it has some icons that we can use. Open a new terminal, and then we're going to install Lucid React, and then you can import the chevron like this from Lucid React. Oops. Like that. Okay, chevron down, it should be down. Chevron down, that's the name of the icon. Oops. Chevron down, like that. So we should have the icon. We don't there it is. Okay. So let's keep going with the styles. So for this one, we'll do class name. Oops. The chevron should be in here, and then class name, we are going to do drop down title, that's the name of the class, and then we're going to capitalize for capital letters. Width, we're going to set that to 120 pixels, like that. And we're going to have a drop down when we click. But first off, let's style this. So let's select the drop down title, and then we're just going to put a few styles for that. Global drop down title. I'm just going to give it a padding. So the padding is going to be padding top 0.25, padding right, bottom, and left. And then I'm going to give it a height, font size, and a border. Okay, so the border is going to be 1 pixel solid, and then I'm just going to display flex, center, and justify content space between, as you can see. Nice. I think what I will do is cursor, I'll set the cursor to pointer like that. So the cursor is going to be pointer when we hover. Okay, so we have language. All right, so I am going to create the drop down. For the drop down, we can create a separate component for it. But this project is not like a big project, so it's not really a big deal if you create it here. We're just going to copy and paste this component and change the name of it. Language selector. Okay, so let's create a new state. So the state is going to be code show drop down. Const show drop down, and then set show drop down. Okay, so now for the drop down state, I'm going to say const creating a function toggle drop down. Okay, so for the toggle drop down, I'm going to set show drop down to the opposite. So it's false. If we click, it's going to be true, or false. We're going to be toggling between true and false, like that. And then we're going to say const handle. We're going to change the language. Okay, so we want to get the value. So when you click, there's going to be a drop down of languages, different languages. Okay, so we're going to handle language change. Okay, we're going to take in the new language. It's just going to be a string. Get rid of the icon. The language, which is going to be a string. So here we're going to say set language. So the language, we're going to set that to this language in here. So this should be new language, just to make sure it's not confusing. New language, like that. So set language, it's going to be the new language, which is here in the parameter. Okay, so for the icon, I also want to change the icon based on the language. So I'm going to say const new active icon, and then I'm just going to run the find method languages dot find. So make sure you import languages from utils, and then we're going to run the find, which is going to take a callback function. So here it's going to take a callback function. I'm just going to name this lang, and then we're going to return. So we're going to return lang dot name if it matches, if it's equal to the new language. Okay, so we are looking for the active icon, and if the name equal to the new language, and then it's going to be the new active icon. And then if new active icon, and then we're just going to set active icon to the new active icon dot icon. Oops, not dot icon, like this. Just the new find new language. It should be dot icon here. So new language dot icon. Oops, dot icon, like that. So we don't have to do dot icon in here. All right. So now we have the handle language change. we are going to create a drop down. Okay, so if we're going to do show, we're going to do language drop down, and then we are going to, so it's show drop down, and we're going to do a div. Div like that. Okay, so if the drop down is true, if show drop down is true, we're going to show this div here, which is going to be the drop down. Okay, so let's just say drop down like that. So whenever the shop drop down is true, we're going to show whatever is here, which is going to be the drop down menu. So when do I want to set this drop down to true? Well, when I click. Okay, so when I click something, I want to show the drop down. So we have that toggle function. So I want that when I click this, actually when I click, I'm just trying to think, if I click this whole thing here, I want the drop down to show. Okay, so I'm going to set a on click here. So on click, when I click this whole thing, show the drop down. So let's say toggle. What did I name the function? Should be toggle drop down like that. So when I click, there it is, there's the drop down. When I click, it's going away. Nice. For this drop down, I want it to have the languages. All right, so in the drop down, we're going to do languages.map, and then we're going to return a language. We can return a div here like that, but in this case I'm just going to return a language, a div here. Let's give it a key. So the key, I'm just going to give it an index here, I, and then the key, because it's going to be unique, so we need to give it a key. Okay, and here we're just going to do a button, and then we're just going to set that to the language dot name like that. So when I click, as you can see, there's a list of items. Okay, nice. So because we've set the handle change to the language dot name, that's why you can see it's changing here based on the language. All right, so we've done the styles. So the width, well, we're setting that to 120 as well, but we need to set the position for this drop down. So width 120, text left, get rid of the text left. We are just going to capitalize. So make sure it's in capitals. Oops. Text left. Wait a minute. So we have language.name. Okay, we don't need to capitalize this, so it's showing the correct names. So width is set to 120, but we need to set the position for this to relative, to absolute, I mean. So width 120. Let's set the top. I'm going to set top. I am going to set this to 74 pixels. Okay, we are not going to see a difference yet because we need to set this position to absolute. So drop down, drop down item. That is a good class name, but I'm just going to name this class drop down menu, like that. I'm going to copy this, and then let's go to the global. So here with the drop down title, and then we have the menu. So for the menu, I'm just going to give it a padding as well, position to absolute, and then I'm going to give it a background and a border. That's it. Okay, and the border radius to be rounded like a little bit, like that. Let me see. Okay, so there's a bit of spacing here. Okay, so width. Let me check if I did set the width. So the width, 120 pixels, get rid of, should be 120, and also here the width 120, like that. Okay. So top, let's do 84. Something weird is going on. Okay, I see. So this 74, it should be, oops, take this, it should be here. Okay, like that. All right, so now it makes more sense. Top 84, let's try 94. Okay, so this looks better. We can change the language. Perfect. Let me see if I have a hover. I do not have a hover. All right, so now we can change the language. We need to move on to the next component, which is going to be the color of this code. Okay, so we are basically going to be doing the same thing, or we can just create a component for this, but since this project is not that big, it's not a big deal. So the next component that we're going to be creating, it's going to be the colors. So in the components folder, let's create, it should be, let's name it theme selector, or code, let's just name it theme selector .tsx, use client, react functional component. Okay, so now we have the theme selector. So after the language selector, we're going to have the theme selector, like that. So we should have the theme selector here. We want it to be next to each other. We need to display flex, the parent. Okay, language selector. Okay, so P5 header. Okay, so header. Let's inspect here. Okay, let me inspect. So gap. Okay, so gap. All right, header. So we're fixed. I'm just confused to see why it's not going side by side. So header. So with the width, flex gap 6. Okay, so width. So let's do flex. Then gap 6. Okay, so now, okay, there it is, theme selector. So for the theme selector, we're going to do an interface. So we're just going to do similar stuff, what we were doing on the other component. So in here, we need a theme. So the theme is going to be type of a string, and then set themes. It's going to be a function returning void, like that. So I'm just going to create a state, const show dropdown, and then const toggle dropdown. To be honest, we can create this dropdown function in the utilities here, so we don't need to keep recreating it. So that's like your homework. Okay, so now we're setting that to opposite. All right, so now we are going to handle const handle theme change, new theme, and then we're just going to set the theme to the new theme, like that. Okay, so here we're going to do a class name theme selector, and then on click, and then we're going to toggle drop down, like that. So when I click, there's going to be a drop down here, but we haven't implemented the drop down here. We're going to set and drop down. We're going to show a div when the drop down equal to true. Okay, like that. So we're going to have that p tag here, the one that's showing this text here. So you can copy and paste it from the other component, like that. And then the title is going to be code colors. All right, and then we're going to have a div. You can copy the exact width and height here, the exact component. You can copy, or you can create a separate component to be reusable. Okay, and I'm just going to paste that here, drop down title, that's the class name, and then we need to import the chevron from Lucid React, as you can see here, but we're missing the theme. We don't have the text yet, that's why we don't see the text. Okay, but in here we're just going to map through. We're going to do themes. We don't have the themes yet, so we need to go to utilities, export const themes. It's going to be an array of themes. So for the themes array, I am going to be using a few. So we're going to have Monokai, and then we're going to have Twilight, and then we're going to have Terminal, and then these are the themes we have. We have only 3 themes. Where were we? Language selector. I'm going to close this. Here we're going to import themes, so make sure you import themes from utils, and then I'm going to map, and then it's going to take a theme. Let's give it an index. Okay, and then we're going to return a div. Okay, so and then we're just going to style that div. Okay, key, or we can retain a button, and then and then on click, and then we're going to handle theme change, like that, and then we're going to set the theme. Okay, and we just need to style this, and then here we just do theme, like that. Okay, let's do a class name. For the drop down, you should have a class or drop down menu. Top 94 with 120 pixels. So we have done these classes already. And then for the button class name, we're going to have capitalize like that, and then we're going to have text left. Okay, so there it is. So it doesn't work yet because we don't have the state in the page. Okay, so the page is the parent of everything, so that's where we need to do the state. Okay, so code page, we are going to do const, we're going to do theme, and then set pardon me, set theme. So on initial, the theme, we're going to do themes. We're going to select the first theme, like that. All right, so we should have a theme. Because we don't have a theme yet, because we need to send that through here. So we're gonna do theme, and then we do theme like this, and then we're going to do set theme, like that. So we should be able to see a theme Monokai by default. Okay, and we can change the theme, but nothing happens yet because we're not setting that theme state. Okay, so go back to the theme selector. Actually, we are setting the theme, so let's see, it should be working now. Terminal. Okay, page.tsx, theme selector, and the theme. We are handling the theme. It should work, but I don't know why it's not. Okay, so what we can do is COG new theme, Twilight, Monokai, terminal. Okay, it should work then. Let's see why. Let's go. Oh, I know why, because we we haven't sent the theme yet here. So theme, we need to send it here, theme, like that, and then we go to the code editor. So if you remember, we have the prop already for theme here, so we need to use that. Resizable, so theme, and then we set that to theme, like that. Okay, so now it should be working perfect. So it's changing the theme. All right, so let's move on to what's the next component. We need to do the theme selector. All right. So for the theme selector, wait a minute. Theme selector. So for the theme selector, I think I'm mixing up the names. I'm going to name this because we have the theme selector already. That's for the code. I'm going to name it the background selector. Background selector. Background selector.tsx will be use client React functional component, and we're going to export. All right, so let's render the component here. We're going to do background selector like that, and then we're going to do an interface for the background selector, but we need the background and the set background state. All right, so theme selector, close this code editor. You can leave it open. So for the background, we're going to be interface, and then we need the background itself and then the set background, and then we're going to destructure here. All right, so now let's start with the utilities. We're going to be creating this background here. So we are going to name the variable backgrounds, export const backgrounds. It's going to be an array of backgrounds, so you can put as many backgrounds as you want in here and as many colors as you need. But in this case, I'm just going to paste in some background colors. All right, so now we do have some backgrounds. Let's go to page. So in the page, we're going to do the state because it's the root component of our, is the parent component of the items that we want to access the state. All right, so we are going to do background theme and then const background and then set background. So for the background, I am going to do backgrounds, and then we're going to select the first item in the array. All right, and yeah, let's scroll down. We just need to send those state values. So we have the background and set background. Okay, so let's go to the background selector component. So we're basically going to be doing the same thing over and over again. So we just need to create a drop down state, or you can create a custom hook for this. Const show drop down, and then we need the handle background change. Okay, so we can toggle background drop down, and then we're going to have const handle background change like that. All right, and now we have those functions. We are going to go here. Actually, I'm going to give it a class name, relative, and then bg selector. bg selector. Okay, so we're basically doing the same thing, showing the chevron and the title. The title is going to be theme selector. So make sure you import chevron from Lucid React. Okay, like that. Lucid React. So there is our theme selector. We need to, so the width is going to be different. In this case, it's smaller, and the height is going to be different as well. So let's change this to button. You can leave it as a div, and then the buttons we can, why is it broken? And then the buttons is going to be the, when I click the drop down. Okay, so let's do the drop down. show drop down, and then oops, it's not working. I guess the auto completion is wrong. So show drop down, okay, so let's click. Nothing happens because we didn't add the click listener. Okay, so when I click this, one click, show drop down. Oh, this is not the function that I want. So this should be a toggle. Okay, toggle like that. The drop down is showing. Nice. Okay. So for this one, let's give it the class names. Okay, so class name, the drop down menu, class name, and then top 74 pixels, and then width 62, rounded full, and then it's going to be display flex. It's going to be a column. We could have done this with the other. Okay, so there it is. Okay, but it's not closing when I click anywhere on the screen. We're going to fix that later on. Okay, drop down. So we're going to have a list of backgrounds here. So we are going to do backgrounds dot map, and then we're going to get a bg index, and then we're going to return. We're just going to return a div key. We're just going to set that to index, and then on click, we're going to handle background change, and then we're just going to set that to bg. All right, it's not assignable. Okay, let me see what's going on. Let's do the styles first, and then we're going to fix this issue. Class name. So for class name, I'm just going to do rounded with 20 pixels, height 20 pixels, and then rounded. I want it to be rounded, and then style background, we're going to set that to bg like that. As you can see now, we have a list, but it seems like the handle change is not working, so this should be a callback function. All right, so now as you can see now, it's changing. Okay, so when I open this drop down, I want, when I click anywhere on the screen, to close the drop down. So we're going to install another package. It should be outside click handler. Okay, so it's called react outside click handler. Okay, so react outside click handler, that's the name of the package. Let's copy the install, go to the terminal, and then we're going to install the package. So in here, I am going to import the package outside click handler. I think we also need to install the types. Okay, copy, install the types like that, and then we just need to wrap our entire component with the click handler, and then set our state to false. Okay, so copy this here, and then oops, so we're going to do on outside click. We're going to run this callback function. We're going to set background to false. Okay, we're going to change the state value to false. Cut this, and then we're going to wrap like that. Okay, so set background. Actually, what's the name of this state? It's set drop down. What? Set show drop down to false. Okay, so we are within the background selector. So when I go to here, when I click anywhere, it's going to close. Going to close the drop down. Okay, nice. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for the other components, like here. Copy this. We should be more consistent with our naming. Oops, here. So this should be set. We need to import this as well up here. Like that. Do we have, okay. So set show drop down false for the language selector, like that. We also need to do the same thing for the code colors, which is the theme selector. Outside, which we need to import. Outside click handler, like that. Okay, so we should be able to close this drop down menu. Okay, now so let's work on the padding. We're going to have the padding, but first off, the background, let me check where I've set that. Okay, so the background is within a code block. So let's search code block. Code block. Okay, so that's where the background is set in the code block. So let's start with code block. Let's do style. Here we're just going to set the background. Okay, actually no, the background is set here. Style in the resizable is where the background is set. Get rid of the padding, just the background here. That's what we want. So now we should be able to have a background which is not showing. Okay, so let's inspect here. See if our background is working. Okay. Seems like our background is not working. Background. Let's let's put the prop background. All right. So now the background is working. Okay. So that's the effect we're looking for. Perfect. So let's see. Let's go on creating the padding component. Padding selector.tsx. Selector. Okay, so padding selector. Use client. React functional component export. All right, so in the page, we're going to be creating a new state. Okay, I'm just gonna say const paddings, set paddings. For the paddings, I'm just going to have a simple array. So we're going to have, oops, 1 rem all the way to 4 rem. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we're going to have the current padding, const current padding. We're going to select the padding number 2. I think padding number 2, 0, 1, 2, so which is 3 rem. Okay, so padding number 2, we just need to pass in, so I don't forget, we need to send in the current padding so that I don't forget to send that property. Okay, so for the padding, we need to go to the padding selector, and then we send the paddings as well as the current padding, like that. Okay, so padding selector, we're going to do an interface. So we have paddings, and then we're going to have current padding, set current padding, which is going to return void. All right, so save. What property is missing? Okay, on code change, we're going to do that later on. All right, so padding selector. So for the padding selector, we're going to have these 4 buttons, but I'm just going to set the current padding first to see if it's working. Code block. Let's do style equal to padding. We're setting that to current padding. All right, so let's oops. Okay, seems like we have an issue. Code block. Ah, it should be on the code block, not code title. Yeah, that's where it should be. Okay, so it's working, but we have an issue here with the height and stuff. We're going to fix this later on. All right, so perfect. So the padding is looking great. We just need to keep styling. Padding selector, we are going to map through the paddings. Okay, so paddings the map like that, and then we're going to return a button like that. All right, because we have a list of padding, we need to give it a key because it's a list. So the key is going to be the index. Okay, but first off, I'm also going to give that p tag, and then it's going to have a name here, padding selector. Okay, and then we're going to have the list. So let's create the function to change const change padding. So we have the new padding, and then we're going to set the current padding to the new padding. So we are going to update the state. All right. Finally, in here, I'm just going to display the padding name, padding, like that. So with the paddings here, but I want this to be in a container because we're going to display flex. So class name flex, and then we're going to do item center. Actually, gap. Let's give it a gap 6, like that. All right. So nice. And then I'm going to style this button. Class name. Also, when we click on click, we're going to do run a callback function, change padding. We're going to set that to the padding, like that. All right. So for the class name, we're going to have a height. I'm going to set that to 37 pixels. 37 pixels. 37 pixels, and then we're going to do flex, item center, justify center, and then text. We're going to do text small, text sm, and then px2 padding, left and right. All right, like that. Okay, it's working. But so what I want to do, I want to set an active color depending on what padding is active. So I'm going to convert this to a template string, like that. So here I'm going to say current padding equal to the active padding, where if the parent padding is currently the active, and then I am going to give a background color, text white. The text is going to be white, like that, and then let's save. As you can see now, the text is white. Okay, let's check here. So we need a bit of a rounded corners. Let's do rounded SM. Okay, so I want it to be rounded. Let's do MD. So it's gonna be, yeah, nicely rounded, like that. All right, let me check if we did a hover. Okay, so we did do a hover. Okay, so here we're gonna do hover, and then we're going to do text white, and then we're going to do a transition, ease in and ease out. And let's do it linear, transition O, and then the duration we're going to set that to 3 milliseconds, 0.3 seconds, I mean. All right, perfect. We also need to set the pointer cursor pointer, like that. Where did I set this on? It should be on hover. Text white. Cursor pointer. Okay. I think here hover cursor pointer. I don't know why it's not working. Hover cursor pointer. I have no idea why it's not showing the cursor to pointer. Okay, let's leave it for now. We can fix it later. Okay, so we are changing the padding. We need to fix this issue here with the height here. So with the here with the height, we need to fix this issue here. So let's go to the code editor. I'm just looking. Code editor. So for the height, okay, so we are getting the height. Okay, we need to update and the resize set height. Okay, so base 10, and then we're going to do +1. Okay, so we also need to do the calculations. Here, not for resizable, but here. So if we set height, so the height must be, I think this height property is going to be, it should be a string. Okay, yeah, it's a string. So we need a way to set the height. So we're going to be using a template literal, and then we're going to be using the height, and then we're going to add pixels to the end. We don't need to necessarily add the pixels, but we're going to be using the height like that. So save. So it's not updating. It's not updating since we didn't add the pixels. Okay, so now it's updating. All right, but there's still an issue here. It's not fully, it's not staying within the container. Okay, it's because of the padding. So what we're going to do for this one, I'm going to do a calc. So calc, we're going to do the height, the current height minus the current padding. Okay, current padding. So if it's 3 rem, it's going to be that height minus 3 rem. Okay, calc. So make sure this is correct. So make sure it's px. Okay, and then current padding. So the current padding is RAM. All right. Okay, so as you can see, it's a bit smaller now. Also, I'm going to repeat this. Current padding minus current padding, like that. So as you can see now, it's still not, there's still not enough spacing. Okay, and I am going to do minus 52 pixels. Okay, minus 52 pixels. This one pixel, we need to get rid of it. I don't know why I added one pixel here, like that. All right, so now it should be fine. Okay, it's resizing properly. Okay, 52. So the reason why we are using 52 is because this height, the code title, is 52 pixels. This one, it was included. That's why it was, going off screen, because of this padding here, and also this height of 52 pixels. That's why we need to also remove that 52 pixels to make it even. Okay, that's why it was, bleeding outside the container. So if I go back here, if I don't subtract the 52 pixels, as you can see now, this is not subtracted the height of this. So we need to subtract that height as well. All right. So now we don't have that issue anymore. All right. So I think the next thing to work on is going to be the actual code. So when I copy this, for example, it's formatting nicely though, but we want to have different default starting code. So what I'm going to do also here, we want to have a starting name. Okay, so the starting name, I'm just going to name it untitled. All right. I'm just looking for the code off screen that I'm okay. So in the utilities, we're going to have initial code. This one, it's going to be our starter. We're exporting this. So in the page, we are going to create another state. So here we're going to do const code, and then we are going to do set code, but it's going to be an empty an empty string. We're just going to do on code change set code. I don't think we actually need the code state in here. Let me check. Okay. We don't need this on code change in here. So let's go back to the code editor. The code editor. We are going to have a new state. Let's do const title. So it's going to be untitled 1, like this. as the title. We're going to create a function for that. We're going to do const. Let's start with code change as well. So we're going to do const code use state. Okay, so for the code, we're going to start with the initial code. On code change, get rid of this. All right, so here we're going to do const handle code change, new code. We go to set code like this. All right. The other thing that we want is the title. We're going to do it later on. All right, so for the code change, where's the title? Let's do the title first. Okay, here, value title on change, e.target dot value. All right, so e.target dot value, the value of the input. So as you can see on initial render, we have this untitled one, which is the state value. Okay, so now let's go to on change. Let's save. Okay, so let's go to the browser. Oops. On code change. Oh, the value, we need to update the value. So the value is going to be the actual code. Okay, so we should be able to see the starter code. Let's refresh. Okay, perfect. So now you can see the starter code that we put in the utilities. This is the starter code. Okay, so now we can modify here the value. We can modify it. Okay, perfect. So now let's work on this icon here. Let's go back. What's the issue here? Let's go code editor. We need to get rid of the on code change. Save. Okay, so let's go inspect here. So this should be within the code title. Code title. All right, so code title. There we go. Okay, so let's do class name for the image. Class name, we want to give it width width of 33 pixels. 33 pixels. Save. So now let's try to change the language, and it's updating accordingly, as well as the icon, and the highlighting is updating, the theme is updating, the background updates. Nice. Okay, so now what's mainly left is to export this as an image, but let's inspect here. Scroller border. Let me check. Okay, so this is the input control. So code title. I'm going to check something in the code title. So with border, this is the border. Oops, there's another border here as well, which is the Ace editor. Oops, border top none. I don't know why it's showing. Let me put it below here. Border top none. Okay, now it's not there anymore. Oops, refresh. Border top none. I think the order matters. Yep, so we need to do it below the border, and then we'll set the border top to none. Alright, so now we don't have the other border anymore. It's starting to look more identical to the original one. Okay, look how identical they look, but here we are missing this. Okay, quite identical. It's wrong spelling for language. 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 Where is it? Lang. I don't know why I cannot find it in the search. Oh, the original one is the one that's wrong. Okay, this one is correct. Perfect. So now, let's work on the export button. Let's go to page, and then we're going to do export btn. For the export button, I'm just going to do align. Actually, self center. Align self center. Margin left auto, because I want it to be somewhere here and centered on the header. Okay, and then we're going to have a button, and then export png, like that. I don't know what this icon is. It's an emoji like that. I think we can find an Lucid icons. Let's do export. Let's do image. Export. Okay, I believe let's do this download icon here. Copy JSX. Okay, so instead of a span, do like this, download. So make sure you input that download from Lucid React. So we should be having a download icon here like this. All right, and then we're gonna do a class name py2, and then px3, and then rounded md, and then text sm, and then text blue 400, and then font medium like that, and then we're going to do pg opacity. We're going to do 10. The opacity, oops, pg opacity number 10. Okay, opacity 10. We also want to set the hover opacity, pg, oops, we're going to do hover PG opacity to 80, and then we're going to do hover, text slate 50, and then ease in, ease in out, and then transition O, and then duration 0.3 seconds. Okay, I think PG opacity should be up here, and then oops, something like that. Okay, and then let's save. There's our button. Okay, I don't know if the background is showing. I'm also going to go to the next line. I'm going to do flex, item center, like that. And then we're going to do gap. Let's set that to gap 3. Let me inspect here. Okay, so the background is not showing. Text blue, BG. Okay, so this should be BG. I think BG. So text as well as the BG. So BG blue 400, like that. Okay, nice. Let me check. I think I probably want the icon to be first, like that. I don't know, you can do what you see fit. Okay, export PNG, and then just tidy up these styles here. I don't know, I think it okay, like that. Just tidy up. Okay, let's save. So I think it looks good. We obviously just don't have the icon on the original, but I think it looks good with the icon. I think we need to do the footer now. The components, we're going to have the footer to a TSX. Use client. Use client. It's going to be a functional component. Next functional component, export. And then we're going to go to page, and then we're going to render the footer here. Footer, like that. So you have the body, footer, like that. Alright, so for the footer, we're not going to have a lot of stuff in the footer. We're going to do class name, flex, and then item center, and then gap 10, and then py16, like that. And then we're going to be using links, next link. So make sure you import link from next link, like that. And then we're going to have a link, class name, text sm, and then font medium, font medium. So this one is going to be my YouTube channel, the code dealer. I'll just copy this and then I'll paste the href here. Font medium. On hover, I'm just going to set this text to slate 200 and give it a transition. Okay, and then I'm just going to add some text in the link. Say subscribe here, and then the non-breaking space is just a bit of spacing, and this HTML entity here, the arrow, is like an HTML entity. So I'm just going to paste in the rest of the icons, not icons, the rest of the links. Okay, I just pasted in the rest of the links. So we need to import the image from next image from next image. I don't have the logo white. I need to copy and paste the logo in the public folder like that. And then we have the logo and then the text. So we have the remaining of the footer. The only thing that's left is to take a screenshot of this. All right, so we're going to be using a package called HTML to canvas. HTML to canvas. This one, we're going to copy this command, open a new terminal, and we're going to paste. Okay, so now for us to be able to use this package, let's go to the page, and then we need to import HTML to canvas like this. HTML to canvas, it should be in the page, not footer. HTML to canvas. Alright, so HTML to canvas, when we click, we want to take a screenshot and download the image. So const export png equal to, it's going to be a function. All right, it's going to be an async, actually. Async function. All right, so now async. All right, so now I'm going to get a ref. We need to create a ref. So const editor element lm equal to editor actually editor, let's name it ref equal to use ref. Here we need to import use ref. Okay, and then we're going to set the reference to this parent, to the parent container here, which is called editor ref editor ref, like that. All right, so in here I'm just going to do const editor element equal to editor ref.current. So we're getting the current, selecting this element, this HTML element, which is the parent container of the code editor. So we're basically selecting that element. Okay, and then editor element. So when we selected the element, editor element, and then we're saying const canvas await. So the canvas is going to be await HTML to canvas, and then we're setting that editor element, this element here, as our canvas. Okay, and then we want to take a screenshot of that canvas. All right, and then our const image equal to canvas dot to that data URL, and then replace image/png with image stream. All right, so now we have that. We are going to say to download this const link, we're going to create a URL like a link to document dot create element and a link tag, and then the link tag is going to have a property called download, a link dot download. So we're just going to name this code.png, or you can name this image. Yeah, just name it code.png. You can name this whatever you want. And then the href is going to be the image. Okay. Which is this one here. So this should be in the if statement like that. And then finally, when I click, we're going to download and save this as code.png. All right, so now let's try this, but we haven't utilized this function yet. So let's go scroll down, and then let's add the on click, and then we're going to export the PNG. So let's go and try to click here. Okay, so when I click, it is opening this PNG here. There it is. Okay, so as you can see, there's this weird glitch here. So this glitch is caused by box shadows. So box shadows are not allowed. All right, so I'll take another screenshot. I'll make the padding smaller. Let's export another PNG. Open. As you can see, we still have this weird glitch. So what we're going to do, let's try to fix this issue by removing a box shadows. Box shadow. All right, so the box shadow, I'm just going to comment this box shadow here. Let's see if it works. So export, download. We still have this issue because we still have another box shadow somewhere here. Oops, editor, and then control comment, and then let's try another screenshot. Nice. As you can see now, we don't have that issue anymore. Okay. Nice. If you like the shadow, you can try to find a way to exclude the shadow when you're exporting the image if you want to keep the shadow here. What I'm going to do now, I am going to create oops, I'm just going to copy this code, the CSS. I'm going to do Control A, remove, paste. So let's change to CSS to see if it's going to highlight. CSS. It doesn't properly highlight. CSS. Okay, now it's highlighting CSS. Perfect. CSS. Yep, it's highlighting properly. So you can just extend this to however you want it. Extend. All right, you can keep extending it like that. Let's try to take the screenshot. Take screenshot. As you can see now, it's bigger than it's bigger. Okay, you can keep expanding this however you want. Let's get some Python code. Python. We can copy this Python code here. Control A, paste. Change this to Python. As you can see, it's now different. Python. And then we can also change the background color, change the theme, export. There we go. Okay, we can get rid of this. Can't remember the name of this thing. I think it's Can't remember the name of the property. Code editor. Oops. Live. Can't remember the name. Can't remember the name of this. Is it Kesa? Can't remember the name of this blinking thingy. But anyway, you can go to the documentation and look for the property of that. You want to be able to see and disable this. So yeah, I think that's it for this tutorial. By the way, you can change the name here as well. app.py or main.py, like that. Py, and then you can export. It's going to be different. Okay, so it says main.py now. Okay, so every time we change, you can make it for some reason it's not showing the y. There's a bit of a cut. Let me export again. I don't know why it's cutting here. Main.py. Okay, let's try this to see if it's going to cut again. I don't know why it's cutting here like this. I guess maybe you can inspect the input. You can increase the padding of this input, maybe. So let's go to the code editor. Input. Okay, so let's do py2. Let's try to see what's going on. py2, inspect. I'm just going to make this number bigger just to see if it's the padding. Oops. JS. I don't know why it's cutting the J and the Y's. But anyways, I don't have any more time to diagnose the problem. It's up to you. You can look for the solution to see why it's cutting. Okay, so let's start by creating these circles here. I might as well just add them now. Go to the code editor. That's where we're going to be adding those circles. I'm just going to name them handle. So we code block. Within the code block, here I'm going to have a class dot code. Actually, let's start with handle, and then with dot handle top. So if the top handle, okay, and then it's going to have a position of absolute left 50%, 50%, and then top, we're going to set that to minus 4 pixels, minus 4 pixels, and then width 2. Okay, and then left, we need to translate x minus 50%. Okay, 50%, and then we're going to have a bg. So with width 2, we also need to set the height to 2, and then we're going to set rounded to full for it to be a circle. and then a bg slate 50, like that. Okay, so width and height. So if I go to there it is, there's the circle here, as you can see, it's there. So I'm going to create 3 more circles, and then I'm going to position them accordingly. Okay, like that, instead of the other 3. So if handle bottom, they each need to have a class of handle, like this. Okay, I'm also going to go to the next line. Okay, so they all have the rounded full, like that, and then the bg slate. Okay, so we are going to change them accordingly depending on the position. Okay, as you can see now, we have 4 circles. Okay, like that. All right, so now that we have these circles, we also need to, when we're capturing, export, it's going to capture those circles as well. Okay, the circles, and also this cursor here. Okay, so we need to get rid of that when we're taking a screenshot of this. So we need to get rid of the cursor. Okay, the cursor's there, and these circles here, we need to get rid of them. So let's go back to the page. We need to select the class and then exclude that item. So in this case, in here in the if, hide elements, so here I'm gonna say const handle elements document docker selector, or the class of handle. Okay, and then handle elements dot for each element. For each element, I'm going to set the display to none. So element dot style display, you're going to set that to none. Okay, element dot style dot display, we're going to set that to none. Okay, so property style does not exist on type of element. I don't know why it's showing this error, but let's keep going. Element dot query selector or handle, and then display to none, and then I'm just going to set that to block after show hidden elements. I'm going to set that to block. So let's export. Okay, so as you can see, there's only one of these elements because I don't think I've given it a class of handle. So oops, where is the code editor? So okay, handle, to make sure it is the proper name of handle. So now when we export, we shouldn't be able to see. Okay, so now the other thing that I want to edit to get rid of is this cursor here when I export. So let's get rid of the cursor. So the cursor, it has a class name of cursor. The page does not exist on this element. Okay, and element. Oops, I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to get rid of type checking here. I'm just gonna put it to any. Okay, so now let's select. Let's select the cursor. I don't know how many, so let's just do one. The query selector, or just one. So the class name is called. Let's inspect this. Inspect. It should be something. It took me a while to find the class name of this cursor, so I'm just going to put the class name here. It's called ace cursor, like this. Okay, like that. And we are going to put it here. Okay, and then cursor, we're going to set that to display to none, like that. And then we're going to display block here. And then let's export. And then let's see. Okay, so we don't have the cursor anymore. We don't have the circles. Okay, so now I'm gonna close this. We can probably do that for the box shadow. Box shadow. Let's select the code title. Box shadow. Okay, let's so when I export, we won't have that box shadow. Go back to page. Code title, it's just one element. Box shadow. Dot box shadow equal to none. Otherwise, I'm going to copy this box shadow, this one. Copy, page, and then I'll put it here, like that. Let's see, export. Okay, we're still having issues with the box shadow. How do I get rid of this box shadow? Box shadow, I think should be important. Be like this. Important. Let's try. Not working. Go to the global. Get rid of this important. Let's see. Okay, it's not showing. Oh, it is there, but let's try again. Okay, I think this is working. Okay, so the box shadow is there, but when I export, it's gone. Okay, it's not coming back though, so let's make it come back. Box shadow. Okay, so box shadow, none. It's not coming back. That's the issue. Export. Okay. I'm just gonna leave the box shadow. Let's go for the handles. I'm going to go to the global. I'm just going to select all of these handles and give them a scale. All right. I'm just gonna give them a scale. I'm gonna select all of these handles, the class names, and scale them. Okay, so we have top and bottom, translate and scale. So now as you can see, when I hover, there's going to be a bit of scaling. Okay, so on the left, we can give them a transition like this. And then when I hover, there's going to be a bit of a transition. Okay, what I will do, I'll also go to handle, dot handle, and then give it a transition like this. Okay. I'm going to also do top, actually translate, oops, no, not this one. Handle top, bottom, and the left, translate y, -50. Okay, it's set to that. Okay, so we probably need to set the cursor handle pointer events. Let's set that to none, like that. So we don't have pointer events. Okay, so we should be able to take a screenshot. Nice. I don't know why the shadow is not working, but yeah, you can try to find a fix for that. And yeah, that's it for this tutorial. I'll see you on the next one.